Donald Trump continues to stack up the losses in court, and when that is the case, he also is always taking out those tiny little thumbs of his to screet, to bleat, to tweet away on Truth Social, furious, angry, and melting down. And that is exactly what we are seeing as Donald Trump is hit with the worst bombshell yet, a ruling against his illegal invasion of Los Angeles, and a huge win for Governor Newsom. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into this insane post from Trump, we got to start with the news of the night. Gavin Newsom responding to this ruling, but let's first take a look at what it is. A federal judge in California ruled on Thursday that President Donald Trump's deployment of the National Guard in the state to quell protest is illegal. U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer said that the unrest in Los Angeles has fallen short of rebellion. While defendants have pointed to several historic instances of violence, they have not identified a violent, armed, organized, open, and avowed uprising against the government as a whole. He wrote, the definition of rebellion is unmet. And we see Gavin Newsom articulate that exactly when he responded to this ruling.
Talking about some of the enduring principles of our founding fathers, who in response to monarchy, in response to King George, set out to frame a new construct to elevate and support individual freedom, liberty. They created a system of checks and balances, a separation of power, co-equal branches of government. Framework took the best of Greek democracy and the Roman Republic, and it has stood the test of time. Donald Trump has tested the limits of that and has done so consistently. But today's order makes clear that he is not above or beyond constitutional constraints. The Constitution sets forth limits. The president is a constitutional officer. The President of the United States works under the Constitution. And so we are very gratified by this decision. His section that he asserted the authority to overrule the objections of a state governor, clearly in the 36-page order, those cornerstones that he claimed or asserted were not met. Section 12-406, clearly there's no invasion, there's no rebellion. It's absurd. And so we're gratified. Today is a big day for the Constitution of the United States, for our democracy, and I hope it's the beginning of a new day in this country where we push back against overreach, we push back against these authoritarian tendencies of a president that has pushed the boundaries, pushed the limit, but no longer can push this state around any longer. A lot of rhetoric from Pete Hegseth, that's his name, that they've quote-unquote been deployed, but it doesn't appear they have been, but they were making you believe that. And so I think the judge was waiting for the evidence that they actually have been deployed into Los Angeles, which they appear not to be. Of course, they're not coordinating with anybody on this. So he's just waiting for that evidence. Obviously, they moved to another location for training exercises. But here's the bottom line. The police do policing. Military, it's for the battlefield. You know, the idea that these unbelievably brave young men and women that I work with, that we have had the benefit of their extraordinary contribution all across this state. I gave you 3 examples. What more evidence do we need of the work they did during the wildfires in Los Angeles and all the work they did to secure locations and keep property and personal lives safe over the course of the last few months? These folks are now being commandeered to do ICE raids. You've seen the photographs. That ends tomorrow at noon.
So another big loss for Donald Trump, but that should come as no surprise because he was clearly breaking the law. And he knew that was the case. This was all just a show for Donald Trump. It is always the case that it is a show for Donald Trump. We saw early on in Doge this exact same thing play out. It was always the idea of the administration to act as quickly as possible, knowing that the courts would soon rule against them. And unfortunately for Donald Trump, this is all blown up in his face, although he doesn't seem that way or feel that way or isn't saying that because he's losing his mind on Truth Social, as we can see right here. Incompetent Gavin Newsom, Trump wrote, should have been thanking me for the job we did in Los Angeles rather than making sad excuses for the poor job he has done. If it weren't for me getting the National Guard into Los Angeles, it would be burning to the ground right now. So Donald Trump clearly not too happy that he is hit with another legal bombshell, and that everyone, I think, in the Los Angeles government has made it pretty clear, including the chief of police, that it was Donald Trump's actions that actually led to unrest, not anything that came before. I don't think anyone had any problems when people were peacefully walking in their streets, demonstrating on behalf of their city, their neighbors. Donald Trump doesn't see it that way, and neither do his masked thugs. That's why they wear their masks, because actually in some ways they might understand that what they're doing is wrong, but they don't think they should be held accountable. But AOC sure does. She's spot on. She made that clear right here.
And Governor Walz, I just have to say, I know you're getting a lot of grief from the majority here, but we are talking about individuals who have cheered on an individual who issued a Nazi salute from behind the presidential seal of the United States of America, who have cheered on the pardoning of individuals who attacked the United States Capitol and flew a Nazi flag and the flag of the Confederacy, traitors to the United States, sworn enemies of the United States of America, through the capital of this nation. And now they want to act offended because someone has the courage to say, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, maybe it's a duck. So I want to thank you for not wavering to their bullying, which is unconscionable and sad to see. So I just wanted to let you know that, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
To the three of you, Governor Walz, Governor Pritzker, and Governor Hochul, you three have each sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, correct? I'll start with you.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have.
And I imagine that also includes the Fourth and Fifth Amendment protections for due process and the rule of law.
It does.
Sure does.
Yes.
And that means protecting your people in your states, U.S. citizens and every individual, because that is what makes America great, that we are a land of the free and of rule of law, to protect them from infringements of their civil liberties, correct? Now, what we are seeing is a pattern where ICE is breaking the law. We have the detention of a U.S. citizen who has been detained by immigration officials. We have ICE here that has also blamed and arrested U.S. citizens for being simply suspected of being an immigrant, largely because of their appearance. In January, a Chicago-based U.S.-born citizen, Julio Noriega, was arrested by ICE and held in custody for over 10 hours. In April, a Florida Highway Patrol officer pulled over Juan Carlos Lopez Gomez, a United States-born citizen, and arrested him on suspicion of being in the country illegally. He had his real ID, his Social Security card, his mother presented his birth certificate, and they still didn't let him go. In May, U.S. citizen Leonardo Garcia Venegas was filming an ICE raid. He was arrested by ICE. In May, a veteran and U.S. citizen who is Puerto Rican, was detained during an ICE raid at his workplace in New York City. That's called a paper bag test. And Your job, Governor Hochul, is to protect people from that kind of infringement, correct?
Yes.
Because all of us must adhere to the law, and no one is above it. So if a U.S. citizen tries to break the law, or if an ICE officer tries to break the law, your job is to uphold the law, correct?
We absolutely uphold the laws of the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of New York.
And sanctuary states are about U.S. citizens as well having sanctuary against the attacks on our constitutional rights from illegal search and seizure. There is nothing preventing ICE from issuing a warrant and you having complete compliance with their request. Correct, Governor Hochul?
We comply in cases where there's been criminal activity alleged. Yes, we always do. But we're not involved in civil immigration enforcement because our state police that I control have to deal with other crimes that they're solving.
And apologies, I just have 10 seconds left. But when they say illegal versus legal immigration, they are trying to end legal status in the United States as well. Correct, Governor Pritzker, with the end of TPS and making people undocumented by removing legal status, ending legal status, and then having the audacity to call them illegal when they were here documented, correct?
Taking students' visas away from people, taking their legal right to be in the United States away from them when they've been granted maybe years earlier to stay.
So I don't want to hear about how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States. And I want to make that very clear, and I yield back.
False.
And charges for obstruction should be brought against each one of you for doing this. I'll leave that up to the Department of Justice. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Ms. Crockett from Texas.
Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Chair,
Point of order, point of order. That was intimidation of the witness.
Do you have a point of inquiry?
Yes, I have a point of inquiry.
State your point.
Raising the prospect of charges against witnesses is a form of intimidation, is it not? Thank you. I thank you, and I withdraw the question. I appreciate it.
Chair recognizes Ms. Crockett.
thank you.
I always come back to what AOC said about Donald Trump's deportation plan. It is not that it is popular, it's that we must work harder to make it unpopular. And both our messaging against it and our advocacy, as well as Donald Trump's own failures, how far he has made this immigration policy deeply, deeply unpopular, sitting at about a 60% disapproval rating. It is why Donald Trump this morning humiliated Stephen Miller, the architect of this plan, and said he's reversing course. Because even he understands in this political moment how unpopular it is. And we have to work harder to make everything he does more and more unpopular. We're going to be doing so by speaking the truth on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.